One of the important stories of our time is the return of Jews to the nation of Israel. And joining me now is Alan Hoffmann. He's Director General of the Jewish Agency, the largest Jewish nonprofit organization in the world, and one which is helping Jews come to Israel. So,
Right.
Alan, thank you for being with us. So where are most of the Jews coming from that are coming to Israel?
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all. And, the Jewish Agency has brought 4 million Jews to Israel since the state was created. And in every period, there are different groups of Jews who need to be brought to Israel or who wish to be brought to Israel. So whereas in the early years of the state, we brought 120,000 Jews from Iraq and several 100,000 Jews from Morocco and many of the countries of North Africa. In the last 25 years, the Jewish Agency brought 1 million Jews from the former Soviet Union. And even today, close to 16,000 Jews come from Russia and from the Ukraine. More and more what we're seeing is young professionals who believe that there's no future under Mr. Putin, or who come from the eastern parts of the Ukraine where there's still fighting and conflict, also related to Russia. And so we have an ongoing stream of close to 15,000 Jews who come from Russia and from the Ukraine and from the former Soviet Union altogether. More recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a very strong stream of Jews coming from Europe, particularly from France, after a wave of anti-Semitic incidents, terrible terrorist attack in Toulouse at a Jewish school. The following year, 2015 and 2016, we saw close to 8,000 French Jews coming to Israel. That's 8,000 Jews out of a total population of 500,000. In 1 year, that's a very big percentage.
And there have been more attacks just recently in France. In Paris, we saw an elderly woman who survived the Holocaust. I think she was 85 years old. She was brutally murdered.
Brutally murdered.
Yeah.
So I should say that after the Bataclan attack, which is almost 2 years ago on the nightclub in Paris, the French government responded by bringing army into Jewish institutions. And I think for about a year there was a sense of security, and the immigration went down a bit from 8,000 a year to about 6,000 a year. But one of the things that we're noticing, particularly in the last couple of weeks, and this is true about Europe in general, there's concern in Hungary, there's concern in France, there is a concern of a new and very ugly wave of anti-Semitism sweeping Western Europe, and I think that we will see more Jews coming to Israel.
Well, what kind of stories are you hearing from those who do come to Israel from Europe?
I think that not everybody realizes that when Jews left North Africa, Algeria is a good example, or Tunisia, at the same time, there were many Muslims who were leaving at the same time. And these Jews and Muslims moved to France and moved into these new neighborhoods that the French government were building, and lived very peacefully, cheek by jowl, for a long time. But as many of the Muslim populations have become radicalized, it has become much, much more difficult for Jews to actually live in France in this situation where their neighbor may be somebody who is becoming increasingly anti-Semitic and increasingly radicalized. I think you may know that in France, the rabbis of France actually made a rabbinic decision that French Jews do not have to wear the head covering in order not to be identified in the public transportation. That is quite something for a country that gave the world the French Revolution and the values of the French Revolution. And Jews today feel uncomfortable wearing a religious head covering in public areas in France.
Well, that's limiting their free speech, is it not?
It's
And
limiting
their
their
freedom
free
of religion.
speech. It's limiting their free speech. I think that we hear of Jewish children being taunted in public schools. There's a big push of families who would like to get places that don't exist in Jewish schools. And so families say, if this is what the future is going to look like, I don't think that this is what I'd like to see for my children. And we see many, many young people making a decision to leave. The biggest assets for the State of Israel is the support of Christians around the world who believe in Israel and believe in the fulfillment of the biblical prophecy.
Okay, thank you, sir, from the Jewish Agency for joining us today.
Thank you.
God bless you.